One book, one extraordinary life. 48 chapters of saints, science, and the search for God.
I'm Kai.
And I'm Maya.
And this is our take on Autobiography of a Yogi, chapter by chapter.
Two boys step off a train in Brindaban with no money, no food, and a set of rules that make survival nearly impossible. No begging, no revealing their predicament, no going hungry, and they have to be back in Agra by midnight. One of them is radiating perfect faith. The other one just pinched him.
Chapter 11. Two Penniless Boys in Brindaban. And this might be the most purely enjoyable chapter so far. It has the structure of a dare, the tension of a ticking clock, and the humor of two very different personalities trying to survive on faith alone. No saints levitate, no perfume materializes from thin air, just two boys and the raw question: does the universe actually provide?
So here's the setup. Mukunda and Jitendra have left the Benares hermitage and arrived in Agra, fresh from the train, covered in dust. They're staying with Ananta, Mukunda's older brother, who was a supervising accountant for the Bengal-Nagpur Railway, and Ananta immediately starts in on him. It would serve you right if father disinherited you, Mukunda. How foolishly you are throwing away your life.
And Mukunda fires back. You well know, Ananta, I seek my inheritance from the Heavenly Father. And Ananta says, money first, God can come later. Who knows, life may be too long. And Mukunda's retort is perfect. God first, money is his slave. Who can tell, life may be too short. And Yogananda notes that his reply held no presentiment, but the leaves of time unfolded to early finality for Ananta. A few years later, his brother would be dead.
That aside is so quiet you could almost miss it. In the middle of a family argument about money and God, Yogananda slips in the fact that Ananta's life would be cut short. The brother who said life may be too long didn't get to live very long at all, and it colors the whole chapter differently once you know it.
And then Mukunda tells Ananta about his clans. Jitendra persuaded me to Agra. We shall view the beauties of the Taj Mahal here. Then we are going to my newly found guru who has a hermitage in Serampore. And Ananta joins him in reminiscent laughter, because he's had to admit that the Benares clairvoyant he hired to predict Mukunda's future was a short-sighted one. My sojourn in Benares was not in vain, Mukunda says. I found there everything my heart had been longing for. You may be sure it was not your pundit or his son.
So Ananta hospitably arranges their stay. But over the evening, Mukunda notices his brother's eyes fixed on him reflectively, several times. And he thinks, I know that look. A plot is brewing. And he's right.
The denouement takes place during their early breakfast. Ananta picks up right where he left off, his gaze innocent as he resumes the barbs. So you feel quite independent of father's wealth. And Mukunda says, I am conscious of my dependence on God. And Ananta pushes harder. Words are cheap. Life has shielded you thus far. What a plight if you were forced to look to the invisible hand for your food and shelter. You would soon be begging on the streets.
Never. I would not put faith in passers-by rather than God. He can devise for his devotee 1,000 resources besides the begging bowl. And Ananta, sensing an opening, goes further. More rhetoric. Suppose I suggest that your vaunted philosophy be put to a test in this tangible world. And Mukunda's answer is immediate. I would agree. Do you confine God to a speculative world?
And Ananta pauses for a dramatic moment, then speaks slowly and seriously. I propose that I send you and your fellow disciple Jitendra this morning to the nearby city of Brindaban. You must not take a single rupee. You must not beg either for food or money. You must not reveal your predicament to anyone. You must not go without your meals, and you must not be stranded in Brindaban. If you return to my bungalow here before 12 o'clock tonight without having broken any rule of the test, I shall be the most astonished man in Agra.
5 rules. No money, no begging, no revealing, no skipping meals, no getting stranded, and a midnight deadline. It's designed to be impossible. There's no logical way 2 boys with empty pockets can eat, travel, and return home without breaking at least one of those rules.
And Mukunda accepts without hesitation. No hesitation was in my words or in my heart. He mentally cataloged every instance of divine provision in his life: the healing of cholera through Lahiri Mahasaya's picture, the playful gift of the 2 kites on the Lahore roof with Uma, the amulet appearing amid discouragement, the decisive message through the unknown Benares Sadhu, the vision of Divine Mother and her majestic words of love, Master Mahasaya's swift heed to his trifling embarrassments, the last-minute guidance that materialized his high school diploma, and the ultimate boon, his living master from the mist of lifelong dreams. Never could he admit his philosophy unequal to any tussle on the world's harsh proving ground.
And Ananta is so genuinely impressed by his willingness that something shifts in him. A hint of humility creeps into his voice. Mukunda, I am not heartless. Perhaps his conscience was smiting him for sending 2 insolvent boys to a strange city, perhaps for his own religious skepticism, and he makes a promise that has a certain irregularity given Indian family tradition. If by any chance or grace you pass successfully through the Brindaban ordeal, I shall ask you to initiate me as your disciple.
Wait, think about what that means. The eldest brother in an Indian family, who receives respect and obedience second only to the father, is offering to bow before his youngest brother as a guru. That's how seriously the test has become. And then Ananta turns to Jitendra. Your willingness does you credit. I'll escort you to the train at once. You must go along as a witness and very likely a fellow victim.
A half-hour later, Jitendra and Mukunda are in possession of one-way tickets. One way. No return tickets. They submit to a search in a secluded corner of the station. Ananta is quickly satisfied that their simple dhotis concealed nothing more than was necessary, and then they board the train.
And the moment the train starts moving, Jitendra begins to crack. As faith invades the serious realms of finance, he speaks protestingly. Ananta, give me 1 or 2 rupees as a safeguard. Then I can telegraph you in case of misfortune. But Ananta is already on the platform, and Mukunda is sharply reproachful. Jitendra, I will not proceed with the test if you take any money as final security. And Jitendra gives this wonderful reply. There is something reassuring about the clink of coins. I mean, who hasn't felt that? There is something reassuring about it. That's what makes his doubt so human. Jitendra maintains a lugubrious silence as the train covers the miles. Finally, he bestirs himself, leans aware, and pinches Mukunda painfully at an awkward spot. I see no sign that God is going to supply our next meal. And Mukunda tells him, be quiet, doubting Thomas. The Lord is working with us. And Jitendra fires back. Can you also arrange that he hurry? Already I am famished merely at the prospect before us. I left Benares to view the Taj Mahal's mausoleum, not to enter my own. His own mausoleum. Jitendra thinks he's literally going to die, and I love how honest he is about it. He's not pretending to have faith he doesn't have. He's genuinely terrified, genuinely hungry, and saying so. And there's something beautiful about the contrast. Mukunda is all confidence, all divine certainty. Jitendra is all stomach, all anxiety. And they're both on the same train, heading into the same test. And Mukunda tries to lift his spirits. Cheer out, Jitendra. Are we not to have our first glimpse of the sacred wonders of Brindaban? I am in deep joy at thought of treading the ground hallowed by feet of Lord Krishna.
And then the door of their compartment opens. 2 men seat themselves. The next train stop would be the last, and one of the strangers takes a surprising interest. Young lads, do you have friends in Brindaban? And Mukunda rudely averts his gaze. None of your business, because revealing their predicament would break the rules. He can't explain why they're here or that they need help. But the stranger persists, and what he says next is extraordinary. You are probably flying away from your families under the enchantment of the Stealer of Hearts. I am of devotional temperament myself. I will make it my positive duty to see that you receive food and shelter from this overpowering heat. And Mukunda, still guarding the test, says politely but firmly, No, sir, let us alone. You are very kind, but you are mistaken in judging us to be truants from home. No further conversation ensues. The train comes to a halt, and as Jitendra and Mukunda descend to the platform, their chance companions link arms with them and summon a horse cap. They alight before a stately hermitage, set amidst evergreen trees of well-kept grounds. Their benefactors were evidently known here. A smiling lad leads them without comment to a parlor.
And an elderly woman of dignified bearing appears, Gorima, and one of the men tells her, the princes could not come. At the last moment their plans went awry. They send deep regrets. But we have brought 2 other guests. As soon as we met on the train, I felt drawn to them as devotees of Lord Krishna. The feast that had been prepared for royalty was now being offered to 2 penniless boys from a train compartment.
You are welcome here. Gorima smiled in motherly fashion on her 2 unexpected charges. You could not have come on a better day. I was expecting 2 royal patrons of this hermitage. What a shame if my cooking had found none to appreciate it. And these appetizing words had a disastrous effect on Jitendra. He burst into tears. The prospect he had feared in Brindaban was turning out as royal entertainment. His sudden mental adjustment proved too much for him. Her hostess looked at him with curiosity, but without remark. Perhaps she was familiar with adolescent quirks.
And Mukunda has been premeditating this moment. He selects the appropriate spot on Jitendra's anatomy and administers a pinch as resounding as the one Jitendra gave him on the train. Doubting Thomas, the Lord works in a hurry too. The symmetry is too perfect. The pinch of doubt answered by the pinch of vindication.
And the lunch that follows is extraordinary. Goriman leads them to a dining patio, spicy with savory odors. She disappears into an adjoining kitchen, then re-enters with a punka, fanning them steadily in the oriental fashion as they squat on ornate blanket seats. Ashram disciples pass to and fro with some 30 courses. Yogananda says that rather than meal, the description can only be sumptuous repast. Since arriving on this planet, Jitendra and he had never before tasted such delicacies.
And Mukunda tells Garima, dishes fit for princes indeed, honored mother. What your royal patrons could have found more urgent than attending this banquet, I cannot imagine. You have given us a memory for a lifetime. And silenced as they are by Ananta's requirement, they cannot explain to the gracious lady that their thanks hold a double significance. Their sincerity, at least, was patent. They depart with her blessing and an attractive invitation to revisit the hermitage.
But outside, in the merciless heat, Jitendra's misgivings return almost immediately. They make for the shelter of a lordly kadamba tree at the ashram gate, and the sharp words follow. "A fine mess you have gotten me into. Our luncheon was only accidental good fortune. How can we see the sights of this city without a single pice between us? And how on earth are you going to take me back to Ananta's?"
And Mukunda's reply is pointed but not bitter. He's accusatory, but not at Jitendra, at something deeper. You forget God quickly now that your stomach is filled. How short is human memory for divine favors? No man lives who has not seen certain of his prayers granted. And Jitendra isn't having it. I am not likely to forget my folly in venturing out with a madcap like you. And Mukunda says firmly, "Be quiet, Jitendra. The same Lord who fed us will show us Brindaban and return us to Agra."
And then, as if on cue, a slight young man of pleasing countenance approaches at rapid pace. Halting under their tree, he bows before Mukunda. "Dear friend, you and your companion must be strangers here. Permit me to be your host and guide." And Jitendra's face goes suddenly sickly. Mukunda politely declines. "You are surely not banishing me?" The stranger's alarm would have been comic in any other circumstances. "Why not?" And then comes the revelation.
You are my guru. His eyes seek Mukunda's trustfully. During my midday devotions, the blessed Lord Krishna appeared in a vision. He showed me 2 forsaken figures under this very tree. One face was yours, my master. Often have I seen it in meditation. What joy if you accept my humble services. And Mukunda is motionless, smiling at the eager face before him, while an inward obeisance casts him at the divine feet. I too am glad you have found me. Neither God nor man has forsaken us.
So Pratap Chatterjee, this man they've never met, hails a horse carriage. He takes them to Madanamohana Temple and other Krishna shrines. Night descends while they're at their temple devotions. And then Pratap excuses himself. "Let me get Sandesh." He enters a shop near the railroad station while Jitendra and Mukunda saunter along the wide street in the comparative coolness. Their friend is absent for some time, but finally returns with gifts of many sweetmeats.
And then comes the moment that completes the test. Please allow me to gain this religious merit. Pratap smiles pleadingly as he holds out a bundle of rupee notes and 2 tickets just purchased to Agra. Everything provided. Food, shelter, sightseeing, sweets, money, and return tickets. Not through begging, not through revealing their need, through what Yogananda describes as the reverence of acceptance for the invisible hand. Scoffed at by Ananta, its bounty had not far exceeded necessity.
And before they part, Pratap seeks out a secluded spot near the station. "Pratap, I will instruct you in the Kriya of Lahiri Mahasaya, the greatest yogi of modern times. His technique will be your guru. The initiation is concluded in half an hour." And Mukunda tells his new student, "Kriya is your Chintamani, the mythological gem that grants all desires. The technique, which as you see is simple, embodies the art of quickening man's spiritual evolution. Be faithful in your practice. You will approach the guru of all gurus."
And Pratap speaks thoughtfully. I am transported to find this yoga key, long sought. Its unshackling effect on my sensory bonds will free me for higher spheres. The vision today of Lord Krishna could only mean my highest good. They sit a while in silent understanding, then walk slowly to the station.
And on the train home, joy is within Mukunda, but this is Jitendra's day for tears. His affectionate farewell to Pratap had been punctuated by stifled sobs from both his companions. And on the journey, Jitendra is once more found in a welter of grief, not for himself this time, but against himself. How shallow my trust. My heart has been stone. Never in future shall I doubt God's protection.
Midnight approaches. The 2 Cinderellas, sent forth penniless, enter Ananta's bedroom. His face, as he had promised, is a study in astonishment. Mukunda silently showers the table with rupees, and Ananta turns to Jitendra with a jocular tone. "Jitendra, the truth, has not this youngster been staging a holdup?"
But as the tale unfolds, Ananta turns sober, then solemn. The law of demand and supply reaches into subtler realms than I had supposed, and he speaks with a spiritual enthusiasm never before noticeable. "I understand for the first time your indifference to the vaults and vulgar accumulations of the world."
And late as it is, Ananta insists on receiving Diksha, spiritual initiation, into Kriya Yoga right then. The guru Mukunda had to shoulder the responsibility of 2 unsought disciples in one day. And the next morning, breakfast is eaten in harmony, absent the day before. Mukunda smiles at Jitendra. "You shall not be cheated of the Taj. Let us view it before starting for Saranpur."
And they stand before the glory of Agra, white marble dazzling in the sun. It stands as a vision of pure symmetry. The perfect setting is dark cypress, glossy lawn, and tranquil lagoon.
The interior is exquisite with lace-like carvings inlaid with semi-precious stones. Delicate wreaths and scrolls emerge intricately from marbles, brown and violet. But Mukunda has had enough of sightseeing. He is longing for his guru. And on the train south toward Bengal, Jitendra's temperament surfaces one last time. Mukunda, I have not seen my family in months. I have changed my mind. Perhaps later I shall visit your master in Serampore. And Yogananda describes his friend, who may mildly be called vacillating in temperament. Jitendra leaves him in Calcutta, and by local train, Mukunda soon reaches Serampore, 12 miles to the north. And a throb of wonderment steals over him as he realizes that 28 days have elapsed since the Benares meeting with his guru. You will come to me in 4 weeks. Here he was, heart-pounding, standing within the courtyard on quiet Raigat Lane. He enters for the first time the hermitage where he was to spend the best part of the next 10 years with India's John Avatar, incarnation of wisdom.
28 days, exactly as Sri Yukteswar predicted, and the boy who said never walks through the gate right on schedule. The test in Brindaban proved that the universe provides, but arriving at Serampore on day 28 proves something else, that the guru sees the whole arc of a life the disciple can't yet imagine.
Next time, Mukunda finally enters the hermitage for good. Sri Yukteswar greets him with deliberate coldness, and Mukunda makes a demand that no disciple is supposed to make, that you promise to reveal God to me. The guru-disciple relationship begins in earnest, and it's nothing like what you'd expect.
It starts with an argument, a really long one. See you next time.